Hello, good evening, Leandro. Thanks for waiting. I was having some problems, but I'm here. How do you feel now? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank
Great.
you.
That's good to know, Leandro. So let's begin, please, with the class. We have to start with the last unit. That is going to be Unit 4. And again, in the meantime, you can tell me and you can let me know if you had any trouble or if you have any questions, comments before starting the last unit, Leandro. What do you say? Did you have any problems or something with Pearson? Let me know, please.
And no, with Pearson, no, I don't have problems.
Okay, good. What about the contents? Do you have perhaps any questions about the content related to the last unit, Unit 3?
I think no, and the video um was perfect explanation,
Okay.
and I don't have questions.
Okay, great. Thanks for that one, Leandro. Good. So it means that we're good to start the last unit for this course. And again, on Wednesday, we start a new course. Okay, so let's finish this
Mm-hmm.
one by taking a look at this unit. So remember, please, you have 2 days. In this case, it's only going to be these 2 days. Why? And actually, no, I'm going to give you until Wednesday because I'm giving you this today. So it's going to be until Wednesday. All right, you have until Wednesday to complete this one because I'm assigning this right now. So it's not going to be 2 full days. So Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. But remember that that day we're also going to start the next course. Okay,
Okay.
so you have to
Mm-hmm.
take that into account. So good. It should be there, yes. So I'm also going to assign now. Remember, it's not going to be a quiz. I'm going to assign the final exam. And this is the one. Okay. Also until Wednesday. And you got 65 minutes. Okay, so everything is done with Pearson. It means we can start with the last unit that is going to take place today and tomorrow. So let's take a look first at this. This is the present perfect. All right. I believe that you know something about the present perfect, but this is the present perfect continuous. If you don't, well, you're going to learn this with me. It's not something complex in the way you have to use it, but you need to know verbs in the last conjugation. They call it the past participle, right? Go, went, gone, right? So go, gone, taken, given, all right, swam. All the last conjugations have to be known for the present perfect. But for the present perfect continuous, it's easier because you don't need to memorize that. Okay, but let's take a look at that so that we remember. Let's analyze first these three ideas, please, Leandro. Let's read them out.
Okay. I read that book yesterday. I have read that book 3 times. I have been reading that book for 2 days.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one little detail. Remember, as read is the same in present, in past, right? In writing, but in pronunciation is going to be different. As we know that this is past. Sorry, give me 1 second. My screen just froze. Okay, as you can see, they are in past. How do we know that they are in past, Leandro? What do you say?
In past, read? No.
Right, exactly. But how do you know the sentences are in past? Because it says, right, yesterday.
Yesterday.
It says 3 times, but you have the auxiliary have. Here you also have the auxiliary have plus the verb in the past participle. And here it says also time reference. So all of them are in past. It means that, yes, they have to be read, right? So I read that book yesterday. I have read that book 3 times. And I have been reading that book for 2 days, right? So these are three ideas in past. But what do you think is the difference between those three, Leandro? What is the difference between number 1, 2, and 3?
Have and have been.
Yes, correct. In terms of grammar, that is perfect. You have the auxiliaries that you have to use in the present perfect, right? I have, in this case, I have read, and here I have been reading, right? So good, that's one thing. Now, in terms of meaning, when do you think you have to use this? This is the simple past, I read. And when do you think you have to use the present perfect, I have read? What do you say? When do you say yo leí? And when do you say yo he leído?
Mm, um, I don't know for the number of times. I don't know.
Okay, could be related to that. So if I ask you one question, if I ask you, when did you read that book? What is the question for that one? When did you read that book?
I read that book yesterday.
Good. Uh-huh. Now imagine that you don't have this. I'm going to do something. Now you only have number two. Okay. And if I ask you the same, when did you read that book?
Um, I have read that book 3 times. And when?
Uh-huh. So
Uh,
do you think it's possible to answer a question with when?
um, yes.
Okay, how would you do it? Just with the information here, because yes, you're doubting and you can say what you're thinking, because actually,
Mm-hmm.
if you feel this, how do you answer this with when? Actually, it's not possible, right? Because you don't have when. All right. So again, I'm showing you that because that's the main difference. You are never going to have information that is going to tell you when you use the present perfect. Okay,
Oh,
why?
okay.
Because this is the indefinite time. Okay, you cannot use definite time for the present perfect. It's going to be incorrect. All right, so if you say, I have read that book yesterday, is incorrect. Okay, you can
Mm-hmm.
say times that you read that book, right? For example, I have read that book 3 times, but we don't know when, right? You can say, I have read that book before, you don't know when is before, right? It can be yesterday, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know, right? So the present perfect, okay, so let me show all the examples one more time. This here is the definite past, okay? In this simple past, you have to mention when it happened. Okay, I read that book when? Yesterday. Here, this is just a reference of something that happened in the past. I have read that book 3 times, but we don't know when, right? But what about the last one? What do you think is the difference between number two and number three? I have been reading that book for 2 days.
Mm, it's estuve leyendo. It's for time when you read the book, for
Yes, close
duration
to
of the
that one.
time.
But this one, instead of that one, that was going to be I was reading, right? Yo estaba leyendo. But this one
Mm-hmm.
is going to be yo he estado leyendo. All right, I have been reading. Yo he
Mm-hmm.
estado leyendo. But the idea is that what you said, it's also for something that we don't know when it happened. Okay, when we don't know when it happened, we don't know if it was today ago,
It's a little bit lag. Uh,
we don't know or we don't want to say when it happened. We only
Sorry.
want to say, I don't know why. Yes, can you hear me better?
Now, yes.
Okay, good. Let's wait, please. Perhaps it's going to get better. But yes, so number three is something that has been happening in progress, right, in the past. But the difference between I was reading and I have been reading is that I was reading is past and it finished. Okay, I
Okay.
was reading is past and it finished. This is also past, but we don't know if it finished because we don't know if it was 2 days ago or if it's just these last 2 hours. All right. So it's something that can still be happening in the present. Okay, so that's the difference. If you say I was reading, I know that that action is finished. But if you say I have been reading, perhaps you have been reading in the last 5 minutes. Okay, so there's a connection with the present. All right, so
Okay.
once again, let's try to summarize that. It's important to understand that difference. So, one more time, number one is the definite past. Okay, just one verb that is conjugated in past. I read, right? I read that book yesterday. I went to the party last night, right? I traveled to Brazil 2 years ago, right? So we know when it happened. You can localize, you can, let's say, you can see that in a calendar. All right. So number one, you know when it happened past. Here is something that has happened in the past. You don't know when, but you know the period of time. Okay, for 2 years, but you don't know when those 2 years were, or 3 times, 5 times, but you don't know when those 3 times or 5 times were. All right. And number three is the same as number two, but you put more emphasis on the idea of the continuation of the action, right? I have been reading, I have been working a lot this week. It is past, but it's still affecting the present. Let's have that in mind. Now, we're going to see this actually, and we're going to focus on the last two, but we're going to remember first a little bit. So this is the definition for the present perfect continuous, please, Leandro.
Okay. Use the present perfect continuous when you want to put some emphasis on the progress of the action and the relationship with a period of time.
Okay, good. This is what we said, right? To put emphasis on the progress of an action. So it's something that has been happening lately or in the past, but perhaps it still has a connection with the present. Okay, that's why you call it the present perfect, because it is past, but it can have a connection with the present. All right, so you know the conjugation you use with have, right? Is I, we, you, they have, and he, she, it has, right? And
Mhm.
you always use the verb been. This is the verb to be in the past participle, plus one verb in the ing. Okay, so if I ask you something, if I ask you, what have you been doing? I don't know, right? Before, what have you been doing this week? That's better. What have you been doing this week, Leandro?
Mm, I have been studying in the university.
Okay, good. Yes, I have been studying at the university.
At
Yes,
the university.
good. And what
Mhm.
is something that you have not been doing in negative?
I have not been um, mm, watching movies.
Hey, yes, that's correct. I have not been watching movies. Good. Now, if I ask you, right, you can make up the information. You don't need to know. But if I ask you about one of your friends, okay, anyone, what can you answer if I ask you, what has your friend been doing lately, right? Lately means últimamente, right? So what have you, or sorry, what has your friend been doing lately?
He has um, looking for a, a launch for a festival for yes for launch for a festival
Okay, good. It just you were missing the verb
in a
been, right?
festival.
Uh-huh.
Been
Been, exactly,
he
good.
has been looking for a launch in a festival.
In a festival, good. That's great. And the same. What is something that he has not been doing lately?
He has not been studying.
Good. That's great. So again,
Mhm.
if you analyze, this is interesting, and you can use this a lot. because it's something that started in the past, you don't know when, but it has a connection with the present. Okay, so until today, your friend has not been studying. All right, so good. Again, if you realize this is very easy, because you only need to conjugate the verb with ing, right? You don't need to know the conjugation in other tenses. It's just the verb plus ing, and it is correct. Okay, so when do we use it? Let's read this, please.
Okay, and when do we use it? We usually use the present perfect continuous in unfinished actions, more common, and finished actions.
Good, thank you very much. Just be careful with the last part. Remember, when there is not a D or a T, this is only going to be like T. So this is going to be like unfinished and finished.
Unfinished. Okay, unfinished, unfinished. Okay.
Great, very well. So again, right, you can use it with both in Leandro. It can have a connection with the present if it's unfinished, right? For example, you can say, I have been running. That's why now I'm tired, right? I have been running. But you can say something indefinite about the past. You can say, yes, this week I have been running. It means that it happened this week, but it finished. Okay, I'm not running anymore, but I've been running this week. Not now, not in the future perhaps, but it is past. Okay, so it can happen with both, with finished actions that you don't know when, but you have a reference, and again, finished actions, right? Both of them are going to work well with the present perfect continuous. So we're going to start writing some examples, but let's read first this, please.
Okay, unfinished actions. Unfinished actions. And to say how long for unfinished actions which started in the past and continue to the present. We often use this with for and since and since
Since, that's going to be
since.
since.
Okay, use this with for and since. I've been living in London 2 years. She's been working here since 2004. We've been waiting for the bus for hours.
Great, very well. So this is very simple. Look, por, right? Por, and since desde, right? So I've been living in London for 2 years, right? That's easy, right? He estado viviendo en Londres por 2 años. And the second one, that's the last one, she's been working here since 2004. That's like, ella ha estado trabajando acá desde, right? And you have the year. All right, so that logic is very important, and you use this a lot. Okay, this is very, very common in English, and it's important that you know how to use it very well. All right, so with that purpose, please, you're going to mention something that is unfinished. It means you just mention for and a period of time, for 5 days, even it can be shorter. Okay, you can say for 10 minutes, okay, or for 5 minutes, or for 10 seconds, I don't know, right? But you can say years or decades. It can be very, very wide, or it can be very, very, let's say, narrowed. Okay, it means very, very small. So let's work, please, on some examples. I'm going to share first the link with you so that we can go to our document to start working on the first examples here. All right, so you're going to find the link in the chat as you usually do. It is over there. And this is what we're going to do. All right, you have the examples over there. Let's write, please, let's say 3 examples, okay? One example in which you use have, it means here, right? So one example with have, it means you have to use I, we, you, they. One example with has, it means you have to use he, she, it. And the third one is anything you want, okay? Have or has. But that's it. And remember, please, you have to use this expressions in the 3 sentences. Okay, 4 since, and all of them are going to be in the present perfect continuous. So let's do it, please. Let's have 3 minutes. If you finish before, let me know and we check it.
Okay.
All right, good. I'm going to just start the stopwatch. And there you go.
I finished.
Very well. Let's take a look at that, please. I'm going to stop the timer. And I'm here. So let's read, please, your example.
Okay. You have been reading for your exam. He has been training here since today. They have been working for a better future.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, only one thing for number 1 and number 3. It's good you're using for in the sense of a reason, right? But we're going to use also for in the sense of period of time, okay? For 2 years,
Okay.
for hours, right? So what can you add here? What is the period of time here using for?
You have been reading um, for
It can be
hours.
for your exam. Good. And you can keep for your exam, right? You can say you have been reading for your exam for, right? You had in the example hours, you can give exact number, right? You can say for 5 hours. Okay, you can give exact numbers over there, or in exact as you were doing. Hours or 5 hours is going to be okay. Okay, so good. That's one. And what about the last one? They have been working for a better future for how long? This is something very complex, right? So here you can mention years, you can mention many years.
Mm-hmm. And they have been working for 10 years for a better future.
And it's better if you keep the for in the time at the end. So it's good like here that they have been working for a better future for 10 years,
For
right?
10 years.
There you go. Okay, so that's it. Again, your sentences, your ideas were correct, but we're using these to remember that these are the best options for the present perfect continuous. Okay, for plus a period of time, since plus the beginning of the period of time. But both of them are periods of time. Okay, something that started in the past. We don't know exactly when, perhaps, and we don't know if it's finished, but we know that it's been over there. Okay, so this is the first one. Let's go to the next one that is going to be this one over here. I think this is just a clarification. Yes, yes, if you remember, we learned about, I believe it was with you. Yes, let me remember. Stative verbs, right? Action
Mhm.
verbs and non-action verbs. Okay,
Yes.
this is a reminder about that. Let's read this, please.
Okay, unfinished actions. This use is very similar to how we use the present perfect simple, and often it's possible to use either tense. Of course, with stated verbs, we can use the present perfect continuous. I've been here for hours, not I've been being here for hours. Being, I don't know how to spell that.
Okay,
Spell, no,
great.
spell.
Yes, can you hear me well? I was listening to you, but then it got a little bit laggy, but I think it's because of my connection. But I heard, yes, this is incorrect, right? I have been. Both are similar. Being, right? Being.
Mhm.
So the pronunciation is very
Being.
similar, but this is incorrect because be is a stative verb, and here you have to use it as a stative verb, and stative verbs are not with ing, right? So we know that. It means if you want to say this, Leandro, if you want to say yo he tenido ese auto por 5 años, how do you say that?
And I've been this
Uh-huh. And
this car.
and here and here you have to follow the logic, and you need to count, right? If you say yo he tenido, right, it means you need I have is and how do you say tenido? What do you say? Because been means estado, but here you don't have to say estado, right? You need to say
Mhm.
tenido. So how do you say tenido?
Um,
Is the verb have, right? What is the
have,
past of have?
yes. Um, well, I forgot that.
Okay, don't worry, it's with D, okay? Had,
Hats.
H-A-D, had,
Hat.
okay? And
Uh-huh.
had is the simple past, tuve,
Mhm.
and it's the past participle, tenido. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's have, had. So it means that here, if you want to say yo he tenido un auto por 5 años, you have to say I have had that car
That
for
car.
5 years, right? So
Mhm.
that's not the present perfect continuous, that's the present perfect simple. Okay, that's the present perfect simple. That's why it's different. And remember, you have to use the present perfect simple when you work with stative verbs, right? Because you cannot say yo he estado teniendo, right, un auto por 5 años. That's incorrect, right? Because that would be I have been having a car for 5 years, and that's incorrect, right? So be careful with the stative verbs. You have to use them in the present perfect simple and not in the present perfect continuous. Okay, let's try some more examples because it's important to practice also the present perfect simple. How do you say this? Again, I give you the Spanish idea and you try to give me a translation. You need to use always the past participle of the main verb. Okay, for example, tenido, right? Estado, visto, right? Comprado. Those are the past participle. And some of them are the same in the simple past and in the past participle. For example, buy. Okay, I'm giving you that clue. Buy is the same in the simple past and past participle. So how do you say nosotros hemos comprado, I don't know, right? Esos productos antes. How do you say that? Nosotros hemos comprado esos productos antes.
We have um, we have been bought.
Remember, in the present perfect simple, you don't use the verb to be. So you don't have to use been. Okay, here we are
Okay.
not going to use this one. Again, we're working with exceptions. Okay, so you don't have to use been. You only
Okay.
have to use the main verb in the past participle. So how
Okay.
do you say
I
comprar?
have We have bought.
And how do you say esos productos antes?
And those products before.
Correct. Very good. So we have bought those products before. Now, okay, now that's the present perfect simple. Now, how do you say, now here you use been. How do you say, nosotros hemos estado comprando toda la mañana? How do you say that?
We have been buying buying all the morning.
Okay, close. It's not bad to say that, but it's better if you say the whole. Okay, the whole morning. It's in the
the
chat.
whole morning. Okay.
Correct. Good. Okay, so two more, please. First, present perfect simple. How do you say ella ha, let me think, ella ha visto, okay, ella ha visto, how do you say, a esa persona. All right, then dos veces. How do you say that? Ella ha visto a esa persona dos veces. Okay, and you have to use the verb see, but in the past participle. So how do you say?
She has seen this person 2 times.
Good, good. Just one detail over there. Instead of 2 times, it's better if you say it's not incorrect, but it's more natural if you say twice.
Twice.
Twice. Good.
Okay.
So it will be she has seen that person twice. Okay, good. And how do you say now this? Ella ha estado viendo, okay, ella ha estado viendo, let's say what? Okay, this, because you can use see, remember, as visiting or as having a date with someone. So how do you say, ella ha estado viendo a un chico estos días? How do you say that?
She has been meeting with a boy these days.
Okay, it's not bad, it's good, but meet, remember, meet is like to have encounters, and it's good. But remember, if you want to talk about a relationship, a romantic relationship, you can also use see with ing, because it means to date someone.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so how would it be? One more time, please. How do you say that one more
time? She has been seeing a boy these days. Yes.
Correct. It means that she has been dating a boy, okay, these days, to have, again, not perhaps to be in a relationship necessarily, but to date, right? To go out with the intention of being something else. All right, so that's it. So remember, please, that difference. The present perfect simple is going to conjugate the main verb. Seen, been, gone, given, taken, and the ones that you mentioned. But the present perfect continuous only uses the ing, but you don't use that with the stative verbs. All right, let's only remember that. So let's keep working. This is the next part. This is for something that happened recently. Let's read also this, please,
Leandro. Okay, unfinished actions. For temporary habits or situations. The action started in the past and continues to the present in the same way as with the previous usage. But we don't answer the question about how long so clearly. Instead, we use a word like recently. Examples. I've been going to the gym a lot recently. They've been living with his mother while they look for a house. I've been reading a lot recently.
Great, thank you very much. The only one detail in this word, instead of that you're going to change it to and it's going to be recently.
Recently.
Correct. Good. And a word similar to that is lately. Okay, lately and recently are kind of synonyms. So let me ask you again some questions very similar to this, and you already told me something, right? So what is something that you have been doing recently?
Um, I've been um, shopping with my mom
Good. And you can finish that with recently, right? Correct. I've been shopping with my mom recently. Good.
recently.
What about your family? Okay, talk about your family. And remember, family is one entity, so it's third person, right? Family has. So, what is something that your family has been doing recently? Can you hear me, Leandro?
No, it's a little bit lag.
Okay, let's wait, please, a minute. I think it's going to react. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it should be better. Let me know. How can you hear me now?
Better.
All right. So the question one more time. What has your family been doing recently? What has your family been doing recently?
Um, uh, my fa my family has been uh, visiting to my grandmother. Yes,
Okay,
visiting to my grandmother.
correct. Just one detail. Remember, visit
Mhm.
is not going to need a
Recently.
preposition. So only visiting my grandmother without to.
Okay. Visiting my grandmother
Great. Very well. Good.
recently.
So
Recently.
correct. Good. So again, right, this is very simple. Something that started in the past, but it's been happening recently. That is how you used the, let me see. Yes, and this is the last one because then you have a chart, but the chart is for you and last recommendation. So let's read this last one, please. Finished actions.
Okay. Finished actions. Actions which have recently stopped, though the whole action can be unfinished and have a result, which we can often see, hear, or feel in the present. We don't use the time word here. I'm so tired. I've been studying. I've been running, and so I'm really hot. It's been raining, so the pavement is wet.
Very well. Okay, so this is interesting and it's almost the same, right? But here you have to mention what is the consequence in the present. Okay, so let's give two examples, please. And let's try to use different context from this. So what is something that has been happening, Leandro? And what is that thing that you can see in the present as an evidence of that?
Mm, okay, I have been mm, um cooking, so I'm really tired.
All right. Yes, that's one. I've been cooking, so I'm tired. And to change just a little bit the word, because you have the word over here, what do you think can be a
So
synonym for that?
tired,
Instead of using tired, how do you say exhausto? It's very similar to Spanish.
exhausted.
Exhausted. Good. Right. So let's also practice some synonyms. Good. So I've been cooking, right? I'm so exhausted. Or you can even say I'm very exhausted or I'm exhausted and it's right. So good. That's one. One more, please. What is something that has been happening and you can see the consequence in the present?
Mm, I have been um, practicing English, so speak better.
Good. Yes, that's great. That's a great example.
Mhm.
Something that you have been doing, practicing English, and the consequence of that in the present is that you speak better now, right? So that's great.
Mhm.
That's a great example. All right. So again, if you realize this is something that you can use a lot, okay? Because when you have conversations, you always mention something that you have been doing. All right. It's going to be very common for you to use this tense. So remember, if you want to use this tense, you don't say I was studying, so I'm tired. It's better in grammatically speaking if you say I've been studying. All right, because this one has a connection with the present. If you say I was studying, it's like something that finished before and it usually doesn't have a connection with the present. Okay, it's just for a past situation. But this one, this has a connection. Okay, so that's the difference again between I was studying, yo estaba o estuve estudiando, and I have been studying, yo he estado estudiando. Again, in Spanish, it should be the same, but you know that we don't use all rules when we speak. But that's the main idea here, Leandro. I don't know if you have any difference between the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. Okay, so you can practice using this to see the differences between those two. All right, that's for you. And here, this is a main comparison for the three. So can you hear me, Leandro? I see the signal that my internet connection is not very well. Can you hear what I'm saying?
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's
Okay.
yes.
So let's try to wait, please. Sometimes, again, it's with these moments in which the connection is very bad and then
Mhm.
it restarts, right? But
No
I think it's
problem.
better now, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So we're going to finish with this. Let's read this slide, please, Leandro, to understand the difference between the simple past, the present perfect, and the present perfect continuous.
Okay. Simple past, present perfect, and present perfect continuous. Simple past, definite, finished, punctual, actions. I wrote an article last week. I was born in 1990.
Good. Over there just before, that's good. But remember, in years in English, we're not going to read like that.
Ah,
We're going to read two, right? 1990.
yes, 1990. Yes.
Good.
Um, Present perfect, indefinite, finished or unfinished actions and may or not continue to the present. How many times an action occurred? I have written an article before. I've been to the US 4 times. Present perfect continues. Indefinite, most likely unfinished, sometimes unfinished actions that still happen in the present or had a repercussion. I've been cleaning my room. I'm tired. She has been dancing for 3 hours. That's amazing.
Great. Thank you very much. Only this word, please. In the base verb, it's going to be I because it's one T, right? It's WRITE, and that's right, right? But when you have double T, instead of I, it's only going to be E. So it's going to be written.
Written. Okay.
Written, exactly. So the conjugation is write, wrote, and written. Okay, write, wrote, written. So good. So I don't know if this is going to help you, but try to take a look at this when you have time.
Mhm.
But it's clear if you analyze simple past when it's definite, finished, punctual. Okay, I wrote that article when last week. Okay, so when you say when, simple past. When you don't know when you don't know if it's finished or unfinished, when it may or may not continue to the present, when you want to talk about how many times something happened, use the present perfect, right? I have written an article before. We don't know when, we don't know how many times here, but you don't know when. Okay, so present perfect. And finally, the present perfect continuous when you put emphasis on the progress of the action in the past and the more possible connection with the present, right? And here you can say, I have been writing an article these days. Okay, and with that, it's something that started in the past. We don't know exactly when, but it continued into the present, perhaps, and even perhaps into the future. All right, so that's how you identify these three: simple past, present perfect, and the present perfect continuous. All right, and with this, we're finishing this lesson. I believe we're going to introduce the next one with these 7 minutes, but I don't know if you have any questions about this one before finishing, Leandro. Let me know, please.
No, I don't have questions.
Good.
Thank you.
So there you go. No, you're welcome. Let's go then to the next one. And this is only going to be an introduction because of the time, but it's going to be more than enough. We still have tomorrow, and it's something that you already know, but it's the second category. Remember, phrasal verbs. But we learned inseparable phrasal verbs. Here you're going to learn separable, right? And what's the
Okay.
difference? Very easy. That you can separate those two words and you can put something in the middle. That's it. Okay, but these are different phrasal verbs. So let's see if we remember, please, Alejandro. The first question: what is a phrasal verb? What do you say? How can you define a phrasal verb?
Well, in this moment, I don't remember a
Remember
phrasal
that
verb.
remember that a phrasal verb can be very common as go out. That's a phrasal verb, right? Go out. Or remember run into,
Right.
right? Run into is like meet someone unexpectedly or by accident, right? So that's a phrasal verb. So how can you define what is a phrasal verb then?
It's how do you say compuesto?
A compound.
Compound. It's a compound verb with two words, but it's not necessary that have the same meaning.
Okay, good, great. I think that's a great definition, correct? And the word is very well over there. A compound verb, correct. It has two words. It can have three, right? Remember, for example, look forward to, right? 3 words. But yes, it has 2 or 3 words, and it's the verb plus 1 or 2 particles. And the meaning of the verb with the particles is going to be different, right, than the meaning of the verb by itself, right? And that's correct. And you mentioned that, and that's perfect. So you already answered that. This is a yes no question. Is a phrasal verb used as a verb? What do you say?
Yes.
Yes, right? Because it can be in present, past, future, right? And here actually I answered that one. So what is the answer for this one? Can a phrasal verb be conjugated in past or future?
Yes,
It
they
can,
can.
correct, right? Good. And this one, in the phrasal verb eat out, the correct conjugation is, what do you say? Number 1, 2, or 3?
Eat it out.
Close. This is past and it's good.
8.
8, because it's irregular.
8.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? Remember, it's eat, ate, eaten. Right? Eat, ate, eaten. That's the conjugation for eat. So here you have to conjugate always the verb. You never conjugate the particle, right? You don't say outed. This is not conjugated, only the verb, right? So good. Now let's remember, let's see if we remember some of these, please. If you analyze these phrasal verbs, again, if you don't remember, it's okay, but we're going to remember together. What do you remember about go on? Or what do you think the meaning of go on is? I sometimes tell you this.
Yes, go on is for it's do it.
Yes, in a certain way, it's do it. And in other words, the best synonym is like continue, right? Continue, go ahead, go on, right? To continue with something. Good. What about go over? That's a different phrasal verb, and the meaning is very different. What do you say? One help here, the meaning of go over is in this slide.
Go over, it's like uh, eh, I don't know how to say that. It's for reach
Oh,
uh, reach something. I don't know for.
all right. It depends. If you use a literal meaning for that one, it can mean sometimes that. But if it's a phrasal verb, actually, the meaning is going to be this word over here, review. Okay?
View.
If you use something literal, you can say go over the table, right? You can reach the table and go over the table, so it's correct. But that's literal. But the meaning of the phrasal verb when the words are together is review. Okay, so I can say we have to go over this lesson. It means we have to review this lesson. All right, so go
Okay.
over, review. What about run into? I mentioned run into a few minutes before.
Mm-hmm. It's to um meet doesn't is the word, but meet with a person, but it's unexpectedly
Yes,
unexpectedly.
correct, unexpectedly. That's the word, correct. To meet someone unexpectedly or by accident, right?
By
Or
accident.
accidentally. Good,
Mm-hmm.
that's run into, right? And you can say, yesterday I ran into my ex-girlfriend. And that's not something planned, right? You went to a party and you found her, but it was not on purpose, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
by accident. Good. Come across. What do you say come across? Number three and number four are over there. They are very similar. But what is the difference?
Come across. Um, and I don't remember.
All right.
What is
There's
come
only one
across?
detail. Come across, the main thing is that instead of with people, you use it
Mm-hmm.
with things to find something accidentally, right?
Okay.
So you were cleaning your room and you came across an old photo, right? And it was not planned, it was by accident, right? To come across
Okay.
something is to find something unexpectedly by accident, accidentally. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
run into and come across, memorize those two. They are the same, but run into is better with people and come across is better with things. Okay, that's the thing that you can remember. And what about this one? What is number five? You have three words, but I believe because it's conjugated. What do you think is the phrasal verb in number five?
Mm, I don't remember also.
All right, the phrasal verb actually is, or if I ask you, actually, the first part is for the present perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is an auxiliary, so this is not a phrasal verb. This is just for the conjugation. This is the phrasal verb. What is the base form of gotten?
Go.
No, the for gone is going to be actually gone, right? Go or
Go.
gone. Uh-huh. Is
Get.
going to be get, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So get on has many possible meanings, but the most common one is going to be to enter a vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, you can get on a bus, you can get on a train, you can get on a vehicle if the vehicle is big enough for you to stand up over there. Okay, so you get on a bus. Also, to get on means to have a good relationship with someone, right? You can get on with, I don't know, Peter. It means that you have a good relationship. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's the meaning of get on to enter a vehicle, then what's the meaning of get off?
Out. Also get
Exactly.
out of the vehicle.
Good. And you can use also the verb to exit a vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
To exit a vehicle. Good. So these are inseparable phrasal verbs. Okay, inseparable phrasal verbs. But now here we have to learn separable phrasal verbs. Okay, they are going to be like these phrasal verbs, not the same conjugation, but the only difference is that you can separate those. Here, for example, you cannot say, okay, and to finish, you don't say, we have to go the lesson on, right? No, you say we have to go, sorry, over here, go over, that was for that one. We have to go the lesson over. That's incorrect, right? You never separate those words. You say we have to go over the lesson, right? So they are always together. You don't say I ran my girlfriend into. That's incorrect, right? Because again, they have to be together. All right. So all of them have to be together. So just to finish now, before again going to the next part tomorrow, let's give only two examples. You choose which ones, Leandro. Pick two and give me two examples using these inseparable phrasal verbs.
Okay. I come across with my keys in. I come across my keys in my jacket.
That's correct. But if you only say come across, that's going to be present. How do you say this in present perfect? How do you say yo me he encontrado por accidente? Me he. That's the lesson that we covered, right? You need have. How do you say that? Yo me he encontrado por accidente mis llaves.
I have come across. I have come across with my keys in my jacket.
And without with, right? Directly my keys. I have come across my keys.
My keys in my jacket.
Correct. Very well. And if it's simple past, it would be came, right? I
Came.
came across my keys, right?
Okay.
In my jacket. Good. One more, please. The last
one. I need get off. Uh, because I need get off because I'm feeling bad.
Okay, that's good. Only one little detail. Remember, if you use need, you always use infinitive, right? So it's not going to be I need to get off. It has to be I need to get off.
I need to get off.
Exactly. To get off because I'm feeling bad. That's great. So that's it. This is a review as an introduction, because again, next class we're finishing here, but next class you're going to see the same, but the only difference again is that we're going to take a look at separable phrasal verbs.
Okay.
Okay. For example, this one, right? Blew up, blew the car up, blew it up. The phrasal verb can be separated by an object. Okay, that's what we're going to be taking a look tomorrow. So that's it for now. As always, if you have any questions, you can let me know. And in the meantime, I'm sending the survey.
Okay.
Great. So if you don't have any questions, that's it. Thanks for being here. Have a good night and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night.